If you have that strange feeling where nothing's really technically wrong in your life or your business or career, but yet something still feels off. Maybe you followed the plan, you've built your career, you've showed up for your family in your life, you've maybe even created the freedom you've wanted, but then one day, maybe right now, you catch yourself thinking, wait, is this it? Suzy Rosenstein is my guest today. She specializes in this very thing. She specializes in women in midlife, but I think this episode can apply to you no matter what age you are, no matter what gender you are. The moment that you wonder can feel confusing, sometimes maybe even scary, especially if you don't know what you want. And that is such a common phrase people say, I don't really know what I want. So you are going to love this conversation with Suzy. She explains what's really happening when you hit a season like this, and even why feeling stuck might actually be just the beginning of something important. There's a couple things she says in the very end. She gives what I thought was the best advice. So make sure you listen to the end, because that is the one thing absolutely was my takeaway from this conversation. If you want clarity, if you want to know how to do this and what to do, then listen to this episode. Enjoy. Are you ready to work less, feel more organized and productive, streamline repetitive tasks, and implement systems that allow your coaching business to run smoothly even without you? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Organized Coach Podcast, your go-to source for practical tips and solutions. I'm your host, Tracy Hoth, professional organizer, certified life coach, simplifying expert, and most of all, down-to-earth fellow coach just like you. No matter if you think you're missing the organizing gene, have ADHD, or just love anything organizing, I'm here to help you become an organized coach with a business that works for you. Pull up a seat and let's get started. Suzy, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. We're going to talk about transitions and how to figure out what you want when you don't know, maybe. So welcome to the Organized Coach Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Because we've known each other here and there over the years, I was genuinely super excited to have this chat. So thanks again.
I know. We rode in the car together, I remember, on the way to the airport after an event. And what year was that? I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
What year it was, I don't
It was
know.
probably not quite 10 years, but I'm sure it was 6 or 7 years ago, like a
Yeah.
while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so fun. We were
Yeah.
gabbing away in a cab,
I
gabbing with a
know.
stranger.
Well, I want to talk about just so many people are maybe reach midlife, but I don't even know that it's restricted to midlife, even though that's your specialty, is kind of this midlife part, but they're feeling stuck or maybe unsure of what's next. And how do you know, like when you're in a point where you want to reinvent or you need a fresh start or you need to pivot? Do you have a definition of when that is or how that works for people that you see?
Sure. I wouldn't say it's a definition, but it's certainly a lot of common things that people experience. So the first thing I think is really like this sense that you're meant for more. This sense that you're meant for more. And when it happened to me, I was stuck for 5 years between 45 and 50. And I had my job, my last job that I had for 19 years, and I was 27 years in the health promotion and health education sector. So there were these 5 years that got really weird because I was so happy at my job until I wasn't. And then when I wasn't, I didn't really know what the problem was. I was just feeling off. And the word that I landed on during that phase, this is before I knew anything about coaching. I wasn't listening to podcasts, nothing. I was just being a human who was confused. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I don't feel content. So that was the word I personally landed on. A lot of people say stuck. Sometimes you feel confused. And it is kind of weird when you really don't know what you want, because for decades, you probably did know what you want since the last time you planned your goals in your probably 20s, somewhere along the line, right? And you're like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to I want to buy a house. I want to have a good relationship, maybe get married. Maybe I want kids. Maybe I want to really establish my career. Maybe I want to start my retirement savings, whatever it is. Those basic things you had addressed in some kind of a plan in your mind. And now in midlife or later in life, after you've been around for a couple of decades, you're like, wait a minute, you're kind of at the end of that plan, but you don't realize it. You're like, oh no, something's off. I think I meant for more. What else? But I don't know what I want. And it's the first time in ages that you can't figure out what you want.
That's so good. Okay, I love thinking about it like that. And in that, one of the thoughts that came to my mind was, can you realize, like, okay, I'm going to work to be content? Or is that part of that struggle? Like, you're like, why am I not content here? I should be. Maybe that's what you think. And then you're like, but I'm not. And then what?
It's so interesting because it is usually part of the process of coaching with clients. So you have to explore a lot of things. You don't even know what you want. So it's impossible to figure out how you're going to get there when you don't know what it is. So you really have to figure out, what do I desire? What do I actually want? And usually women are very disconnected from that
Yeah.
because, the whole putting other people first thing has been going on for a very long time. People pleasing, like we could all have degrees in people pleasing. So it's very hard to say, yeah, this is what I want, and to have clarity around it. Certainly, I do have clients that after understanding thought work and being kind of released and given permission to actually look at what you want, they are sometimes willing to keep the job or the thing that they thought they wanted to change and instead make the rest of their life juicier, like more fun. A lot of people are
Yeah.
complaining they're not having enough fun or things aren't as meaningful as they want them to be, which is very common. As we age, we are looking for more meaning. So a lot of times that happens, but this is where one thing comes up, and this is definitely something I'm known for now because it comes up all the time, and I'm just so passionate about this topic. And it's really essential in this process, I think, which is determine what it is you want first and then figure out how you're going to do it. But
Mm.
what most people do is they let how they're going to do it completely squish their dreams because the how, we're not ready for the how if we don't have a strong foundation. So the way I like to think about it is cinder blocks. Now, wherever you live, I don't know if you have cinder blocks, but where I live, there are cinder blocks that make up the foundation of the house, like in the basement. And that's sturdy, right? That's solid. So that's what I like to think about when you're just taking baby steps to figure out and identify these desires. What is it that you want? And don't allow your brain squish your dreams by saying, well, how are you going to do that? That's too much. That's too indulgent. That you'll never do that. Who do you think you are? Like a blah, 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 blah. All that stuff. Just forget it. You don't need to know anything now. You don't need to declare that you're making a new plan. You're just exploring what it is that you want and quiet all that mindset drama at this point, just to get clear and solid about what it is that you want. And then once those foundational cinder block ideas are placed, cemented into your brain, they're not negotiable anymore. It's like, yeah, this is what I want. I'm a woman who wants these things,
Yeah.
period. Right.
Yeah.
And then you can ask your brain, okay, brain, how are we going to roll that guy out? Right. Well, how are we going to roll that big idea out? And that's a very different question. And guess what?
Mm.
You're a problem solver. You figured out lots of problems. You're probably a solid project manager too. But it's very different to figure out how you're going to do something once you're not going to, like, you don't think the idea is shaky in and of itself. It's solid. We're just going to get really creative and figure out how to do it. It might be money, it might be time, it might be who knows what, but you'll figure it out. I have full confidence that you can figure stuff out.
Oh, that's good. So you have this strong foundation. Before we move into how to know what we want, is there a difference between burnout and this discontent?
That's a great question. When people use the word burnout, it's often a physical thing as well as an emotional thing, but
Mhm.
not being content is more of a sense that you know something's wrong, and it doesn't have to have anything to do with burnout. I didn't have burnout at my last job. I
Yeah.
had stress because of some life stuff that was going on. But I figured it out eventually. Once I got coaching and I had some tools, I figured it out. A lot of it had to do with boredom, and a lot of it had to do with fear. And the fear part shocked me because I never considered myself a fearful person. I always thought, no, I'm super resilient. I'm not afraid of stuff. Well, it turns out I'm afraid of lots of stuff. And one of the things that I was afraid of was aging out. So, one of those classic things that many people experience when they get older is that they're too old, that and there is some ageism around too, but that you're too old to do something, or maybe your skills aren't up to scratch, or maybe you'll be rejected because somebody saw high school on your resume because nobody told you not to put that in anymore, or who knows what. But I had all kinds of fears that I had aged out. And that was hard for me because I had always put so much pride. I'm 62, as many people my vintage do. We were taught that loyalty is golden for an employer, right? To
Yeah.
be loyal. So I was always very proud of my longevity. And now I was faced with, and I had no evidence for this, but I was just faced with, uh-oh, I'm going to crash and burn. And I was also extremely fearful of becoming an entrepreneur, even though I had been entrepreneurial since I was 12.
Mhm.
But
That's what I was wondering if there's because I think we'd all have fear about changing, like changing what we are doing and
yeah,
taking a risk and stuff like that. But I like how you said fear of in the job as well.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the difference probably. Again, I'm not an expert, but I think burnout usually has to do with some kind of work or some very intense experience. And this feeling of not being content doesn't necessarily have to be
Mhm.
related to that.
Yeah. Good. Good to know. And just to consider if you're thinking you have either of those situations, kind of to see, well, maybe it is this, or maybe it's more this one. So then you are there and you realize I'm discontent. I am made for something more. I want something different. But how do you find out what you want?
Well, I didn't know at that point. I was winging it. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story and then I'll share some things I've learned and how I help clients. So I just thought, well, let me just see if I can figure out what am I looking for. And I remember just sitting down at my desk, just like really determined. I'm like, I took out a piece of paper and pen and I'm like sitting there and I'm going, I got to be able to figure this out. I have a background in psychology. Why can't I figure this out? Like, what's wrong with me? So I'm like, okay. And then the first thing to do is to notice your thoughts, right? So I have a fun framework. I call it a fun framework. So the F stands for find your thoughts.
Mm.
The U stands for understand what you want, and the N stands for nurture your commitment to yourself. So that is the way forward. I didn't realize what I was doing at that point, but I'm like, okay, I'm just going to write down the first thing I think of. And the first thought was, I want to work directly with people. So what that means is like I worked with people at my job, but I was working with really the intermediary people, not the people with the problem. So I wanted to help people and I had a track record of always doing this, but not in my job.
Mhm.
So I'm like, what is it that I want? Okay, I want those relationships with people. I'm good with people. I want the ability in my job to talk to people and help them in some way. I didn't know anything about coaching at that point either. I don't even think I had a smartphone. I just Somebody made fun of me for not having a smartphone. I remember that very clearly. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, I want to work with people. Interesting. And then the next thing I did was just make a list of all kinds of jobs that I was curious about or intrigued by. So again, what first, then how. I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought I'm just going to look for reaction. Because one of the things I have noticed over the years is that so many of us try to solve our problems and get clarity by not leaving the house or not getting our head out of a journal, but you need new data. You got to go out. You got to read books. You do have to talk to people. You do. Journaling's great, but you have to get out there because you meet one person and you talk to them about what you're looking for, it could really change your next thought, your next step, the next meeting you attend where you get more data. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start looking into things I'm curious about.
Well, I
with
like
no
the word
judgment.
curious and data. Those 2 words stood out when you were talking, and that's
Oh,
so
okay.
fun. That sounds fun. I'm gonna get curious, I'm gonna get some data.
Yeah, and it kinda was fun because I'm, like, not being judgmental, so I'm like, "Okay, I like flowers. What does that mean? Okay, let's look into floral arrangement. Let's look into landscape architecture." I just thought, "What the heck? I don't wanna be a grounds person, I don't wanna handle all that heavy equipment, but let me just look. Okay, I love those home decorating shows. Let me just look into real estate. Let me just look into staging. I don't know anything about this stuff, right?" Then I'm like, "Okay, I love dogs. I love pets. Let me look into being a dog groomer." So I did this stuff, and with the helping people part, I'm like, I've always wanted to be a guidance counselor. Very interested in that. Let me look into that. So that took me down the what if you become a teacher route. And then I thought, well, I have a master's in psychology. Let me look at what would be available for me to get a PhD in psychology. Maybe, something clinical, or what else could I do with a master's in psychology? Let me just think about it differently. So there I was looking at stuff. So sometimes it meant booking an appointment and meeting with somebody. And sometimes it meant just pulling up a job board and clicking on stuff and notice what I was interested in. Oh, I want to click again. Oh, that's an interesting word. Let me click that a little bit more. And the one that was really funny was solar panels. I was like so excited about solar energy. So I thought, let me just look that up. Well, it turned out because I'm not an engineer or anything like that, the only thing I could do would be sales.
Yeah.
And I wasn't that interested in that. So, but I did go to some things. I had interviews. I went to events, like a real estate type of event I went to with a friend of mine who's a real estate agent. So I did all kinds of things. And then I met somebody who was a coach. And I attended a workshop or it was an event in somebody's house. And I thought, what is this? I didn't know anything about this. So then I started to check into how do you become a coach? And I looked in my city to see what bricks and mortar options there were. And then there was more talk about online learning. Now, back then, that was 2014. Nobody was talking about Zoom yet. I don't know if Zoom was around or if just I didn't know anybody talking about it or using it. But I ended up understanding that, wow, online learning is becoming a thing, even though it was like teleseminar at that point.
You're right.
And when I went through coach training, it was telephone. It wasn't Zoom. So Zoom came a couple years in, but I started to say, okay, I'm going to do this. It felt right. And I asked the person, how did you know this was the right school to go to? And they said, well, values wise, it felt right. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Because I didn't even know how to assess. Like, I didn't have the literature. Not the literature, I didn't have literature and I didn't have the literacy is the word I was looking for to compare the coaching school options. Like, I
Right.
didn't really understand the terminology. So anyway, I ended up doing it, and at that point, I wasn't even sure I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I just wanted the skills. It felt like the next best step, and that is something I teach. So I hope with this little story, I tried to, infuse some of the wisdom. But the next best step is the other like giant thing that I teach my clients. This idea that you don't need to have the whole plan. Now, back in the day when we were in our 20s, we felt more comfortable coming up with a big plan that would take us a few decades, 30 years maybe.
Mhm.
But now, at my age, at 62, I don't need a 30-year plan. I need to take the next best step. So, what freedom
Yes.
that you can give yourself by just knowing that you need to make a good decision enough so that you can move forward. Because if you stay spinning around, like what I was doing was asking all my friends, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? You're smarter than I am about me. That's what I was thinking. So,
Well,
no, no, no. Like you could do that, but ultimately you want to get to the point where you can make a decision knowing that the sky is not going to fall. You can
yeah.
change your mind. You don't need to move forward on it. The thing after that step, but it is a good idea to take the next best step because that's how you get data. So
Yeah.
by taking the coach training, I got way more data than spending 3 more months analyzing the differences between the coaching options.
Well, both of those things, the just the process of you figuring it out I, in my mind, was imagining sitting there, writing down the things you want to do, and then picking one, investigating and clicking and noticing what you're thinking when you're what you're feeling when you're looking at something and finding options and meeting people. It's kind of like this whole beautiful process. And then the next step part feels like another mystery adventure where it's opening the road in front of you as you go. So it sounds so exciting.
It is, and you have to give yourself permission to not have it all figured out
Yes.
and wrapped up in a Tiffany bow.
Mhm.
And you don't need to plan out 30 years. You don't have to. A lot of women that I'm working with are in their 50s and 60s. And so if they want to change their job, if they want to become an entrepreneur, or if they want to pivot in their career, or if they want to plan their retirement, there's lots of endpoints that are possible for people at our age. Maybe retirement is something you want to look at, or maybe retirement isn't, but you want to really think about how you can work part time and be happy.
Mhm.
Or maybe you want to downsize. Maybe you want to make your life more juicier, or change your ideas about where you want to live, or any skills that you want to develop. So that when I take clients through this, I have kind of a roadmap curriculum that guides them through different parts of their life to figure out clarity about what it is they want to do. And then the N in the fun framework is nurturing commitment to themselves, because all the drama comes up when you start taking action. If there wasn't enough drama, there's more drama when you have to put yourself out there and you don't have your courage muscle built.
Your courage muscle. Ooh, that's good. Yeah. So how do you nurture your commitment to yourself? Is there something you do there?
Yeah, you got to be onto your shenanigans, my friend. Well, one thing I do is I tell my story of my why, because it's powerful. So I'll share that now. It is going to be a downer for a second, and then we'll move into positivity. But my why, I didn't really appreciate it till I was several years into this career, which I think I'm 11 years in now. And I gravitated toward working with midlife women first because I was experiencing some of the angst. So I thought, this is great. It makes sense. But then I started to realize my reaction to these amazing women who were so stuck and didn't see their possibility. They just didn't
Mhm.
see it. And I'm sure, if you're listening now, you're relating to that. There's been a time where you really didn't understand how much was possible, and you diminished what was possible for you, or your capacity, or your ability. So with my story, I've outlived both my parents by decades. So both of my parents died when I was very young.
Mm.
And I was 5 when my mother died. She was only 32. And I was 12 when my father died. He was only 41. It's an unusual situation. And what ended up happening, other than it being traumatic and sad, was that I had a front row seat watching 4 grandparents
Mm.
grieve their young adult children who did not have the privilege to age. They didn't have the gift of aging. And a lot of what's going on as we age is a big Debbie Downer about aging, right? Like, all we can look at, oh my gosh, when I was even getting ready to pop on this call with you, I took a look at myself, and I keep a mirror at my desk, as everybody should if they're going on Zoom. I have found food in my teeth. I have found all kinds of things. Not today, though. But today, I take my mirror, I look at myself, and I see my right eye has a noticeable bag under it that I did not see in my bathroom
Uh-huh.
when I was getting ready. I'm like, what the heck is going on? That's a noticeable bag. I don't want to show Tracy a noticeable bag under my eye. So I was sitting here for the last half hour with one of those under eye thingies. I forget what
Uh-huh.
they're called now. Um,
Patches? Those gel patches or
yeah,
something?
something like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
To help it. And now I'm looking, I can't see it on Zoom, but maybe you can't either. But
No,
anyway,
the Zoom filter is so amazing.
it's so amazing, yes. So, when I'm sitting here on Zoom with potential new clients, or clients who are just, being honest with how they feel about themselves, It's a lot of negativity, and there's not a lot of positivity about aging. Yet, how many of us have a pillow that says the gift of aging or the best is yet to come, or maybe a sticker on your laptop or on your coffee cup? We all say this stuff, but do we really believe that the best is yet to come? But I've got this firsthand experience really appreciating what it means not to have the gift of aging,
Mm,
not to have the privilege to age. And we've all been aging since the second we were born. It
right?
used to be cool to be older, remember? When you could drive a car and when
Yeah.
you were 21, like, it was a big deal, but people don't think about it that way. I even caught myself a couple of years ago, and now I talk about it all the time, but I caught myself, somebody was saying, "Oh my god, Susie, you don't look your age. You really don't look 55 or 62 or whatever." And I'm like, all puffed up like a peacock. Oh my God. I'm thinking, look at me. Look at me. I don't look my age. And then I'm like, what the heck is wrong with looking your age? I'm alive. It's okay to look your age. What's wrong with it? So I
We always
think,
have that we always need that reminder. Yes.
yes,
It's a gift. We're here. We're
we're,
alive. This is
we're
great.
here to complain about our neck. We're
Yeah.
here to complain and ask girlfriends to tweeze our chin hairs as we age. Anyway, the idea, it just bugs me so much. So when I'm sitting on the Zoom and I can see this amazing gal just telling me stuff and I'm looking around her, like it almost seems like I imagine an aura of light around her with all this possibility, just like, and I can see it. I'm like sizzling. I'm so excited about what I can see, and she's so not in that space. So I got really excited by having this situation in my childhood and my life and this perspective to talk to people more about what they really believe aging is and what kind of a woman do they want to become? Do they want to become a woman who is grateful for another day, who's grateful for what she can do and not just focus on what she can't do? And so that has become really, really important. And I think something that just really helps, that I do have like a very sad, powerful story that is kind of easy to relate to, you know?
Mhm.
So that's part of the thing. That's how we get things going, is we have to really understand age, stage, mindset around aging, and develop the tools for mindfulness, like the thoughts, the feelings, to really understand how it all works together so that we can analyze things better as thoughts pop in and understand our feeling state and how we get in our way and how we support ourselves.
Yeah. So understanding all of that is how you're supporting yourself.
Yes.
Understanding that and yeah, and accepting and
And making some tweaks. Like if you are thinking something that's creating, like if you're freaked about the job change, and then you've got a thought that's kind of like, you're too old, nobody's going to hire you, and then that thought makes you feel um like just sad or incapable, you know? And then you go look at those job boards and try to do some of that curiosity work we were talking about. Your experience is going to be very different than if it's what you were talking about, which is motivated, curious, excited. If you're motivated, curious, and excited, you're going to have a very different view and perspective on what you're reading.
yeah.
So being able to understand what tweaks are necessary to have your own back as you go into curiosity around transition, really, really important. You just can't be believing everything you think and just walking around in autopilot bliss.
Yes. Okay, so you see women, make these changes, discover what they want, and then go into it. I love the word shenanigans. Then all the shenanigans of our mindset, not all the doubt and negative thoughts and fear show up. What have you seen has been the most successful, or how do you walk people through that?
So, one thing is developing what I call a regret proof mindset. So, being very open to the idea that you have the ability to do some regret proofing, to take action to minimize the likelihood that you are going to have regrets.
Ooh,
So, you're not just winging it. It's not just some people are lucky and some people are not. It's like, what can I do to make sure I don't have regrets? Because nobody wants regrets. So you want to take action. So you have to get yourself in that space. And I think one of the most effective tools is in coaching, it's called like a bridge thought type of idea. So you can't go to, I'm a rock star. This is going to be great. I'm going to make this change and I'm going to just tickety boo. It's going to be easy. Like, don't go there. Just take a baby step. Take a baby step and just get to the point where you can lean in. So if you're scared, if you're really afraid about something, could you get to the point where you're just more neutral about it, not super duper excited,
Yes.
right? Could you just like, for example, if you're going into a job interview and it's a bit of a reach or you haven't looked for a new job in a long time, like I hadn't looked for a new job in 19 years. So a bridge thought might be instead of what I don't have, or I'm freaking nobody's going to want somebody my age, it could be I am open to the idea that I have notable skills
Hmm.
or useful skills. So you're not like going into the weeds, but you're just talking about a thought that you can get behind. So I love this open to the idea bridge thought. And then my personal favorite, though, really is I'm learning to get better at interviews. I'm learning to talk about my skills. I'm learning that I do have a lot to offer because I'm really good at learning. I don't have any resistance to learning. And at least that gets you a little bit into the useful feeling situation
Yeah.
versus the some kind of a feeling state that's going to pull you away.
Yeah. Those are two so good right now. Everyone listening, just insert those two into something you're working on or that's but not obstacle, but I'm open to learning and
I'm
well,
learning.
I'm learning and I'm open to the
Yeah.
idea. I
Yeah.
love.
It's just a baby step. It's just like, can I get moving in a teeny bit of the direction that's useful? Versus if I just keep thinking what I'm thinking, I'm just gonna pull back a little bit and just not take the action I wanna take.
Yeah. One of the things I was thinking of is identity work is kind of that's a lot what I'm thinking about lately with organizing. Until we have the identity or moving into the identity of someone who is organized. I mean, this kind of ties into what we're talking about, but how do you see that or do you see it relate any at all to when someone's making this change and they're not necessarily sure? Because their identity is changing and they're trying something new. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a big fear of failure going on and a lot of perfectionism, and being a beginner is really scary when you're usually, like, really good at stuff because 'cause you've
Yeah.
been doing it a long time. Again, it's just really being curious about how open you are to actually making a change. Any kind of a change is scary because you're doing something new. And if you look up on Google, and I highly recommend this, look up people who've had success later in life, like after 50, after 60. And they all talk about fear and they all talk about failure, but they don't talk about failure as a big bummer. It's like, yeah, failure is a part of this journey.
Yes. That's for me, and I've shared this before recently, is I used to only enjoy doing things I was good at. And now one day it just hit me like I don't want to identify like that anymore. I want to identify as someone who tries new things and is not good at them and is getting better at them. And it's been so fun. And it just that little shift of realizing that's what I was classifying myself as. And I repeated it so many times without even realizing that is not who I want to be anymore.
That's a great point. And that's a great thing to think about. Who is the woman that you wanna become?
Yeah.
Do you wanna be somebody who's more patient, has more skills, it doesn't mind failing every once in a while?
Yeah.
It's really up for grabs, and a lot of this work, you don't need to tell anybody. It also comes up when somebody has a job title that they feel
Mm,
really tied to, like physician, lawyer, academic, like dentist, any of those, a formal job title.
right.
And I'm always like, well, you're still a person who has those skills. Like nobody can take that away from you. You're just applying your skill set differently now.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with, again, being a little older, is we grew up with a lot of expectations about what we could and couldn't do as women, when we grew up. And it's all up for grabs.
And that makes me think it's kind of like organizing. You bought something and spent a lot of money on it, and now you're just going to let it go. Same with that job title. You spent a lot of money to get that, and now what? You're going to just, the thought would be, I'm just going to waste that or throw it out or get rid of it or move on. I mean, same exact thing with organizing.
Oh my gosh, and I am right now looking at a few piles I have that you can't see. Like, wow, I don't even know what's in that pile.
Yeah. All the piles. Okay. So, Susie, do you have any other tips how to end confusion or, in this process that we would go through?
Well, I do have something, I call it flower power. See, I was able to get the flowers into my career in some way. So these are 6 I think they're powerful strategies to end confusion and just get out of your own way so that you can grow forward. And
Ooh.
the F stands for your future self. So be curious about your future self when you're confused. You can ask yourself, what would your future self say to you 10 years from now and why? And when somebody first talked to me about future self, I was like, what? I was very confused by it. So it could just be, just imagine if you were a little older, what would your future self have to share with you? Because she knows you so well. Like your
Mhm.
future self knows you. It's your older and wiser self, and she's ready to guide you. She has wisdom that can help you now if you tap into it. And if you're okay with thinking about future self, the L in flower power stands for love. When you're all wrapped up in confusion, it is so common to be super hard on yourself. You are not being compassionate. So, a good question to ask yourself is something like, well, how if I loved myself more, if I was sweet, what would love do? If I was sweet to myself, how would love and being softer help me navigate my way out of confusion and into a decision, or at least the first step?
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. I love asking my clients if you were talking to your grandkid or your
Oh,
daughter, like, how would you treat them? Because that just brings the love up so much easier, I guess. But,
definitely.
great
You would
question.
not be mean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, the O in flowers stands for options. So this is where you can do a bit of a thought dump, like I did, right? When I was stuck at my job and I was stuck for 5 years, brainstorm tons of options. So challenge yourself to come up with more ideas. And don't judge yourself. Just dig in and just dump everything you can figure out and watch for those self imposed limitations on what you can't do. So maybe you have thoughts about all your options, maybe just a couple, but it's just good to push yourself to come up with a bunch of options because there's more than you think. Sometimes I challenge clients to come up with 20. They're like,
Mhm.
what? That's too many. I'm like, you could do it.
It loosens
Okay.
your brain up for sure. It makes you keep looking instead of judge or stop.
Exactly. It's really, we're so funny. Okay. The W stands for win win. So this idea is to examine all the options and pick one as though it's successful. Just believe that your options all have the potential to be successful. You're thinking of it, I'm going to fall off a cliff. I'm going to make the wrong decision. Something I pick is going to be a terrible idea. But you don't know that. What if anything you pick also has the potential to be an amazing idea?
Mm.
Practice thinking about that too, not just the doom, the worst case scenario. Oh, I'm so guilty of this one. I
Mm.
really am. So pick one, you're successful, pick the other, you're successful. It's a really fun thing to think that anything could be successful. And then E stands for endpoint. Here's a good one. Do you want to just stay confused forever? No. Decide that you won't be confused forever because you're going to give yourself a date, a time, something that your confusion will end. Now, again, that doesn't mean you need to have the whole plan sorted. And you're
Yeah.
likely going to be resistant to this idea because you're like, no, no, it has to be perfect, or I need to know more. I need to know more. But postponing is really just wasting time. You're just being indulgent. It prolongs the confusion. Making a decision is what gets you unstuck and takes you forward. Because whatever you do, you're going to be different than you were. So you're going to have more data, even if it's a teeny tiny bit. You've moved forward.
Is that like endpoint in when you're going to make it the next step decision, like choice or
Yes.
whatever? Okay.
Just to
So
do
it's not
something.
like I have it figured out. It's like I'm gonna make a decision to take some action.
Exactly. Just something.
Yeah.
Other
Okay.
than just blah, 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 whining to your friends. Honestly stuck for 5 years, 260 weeks. That was me. That's terrible. I don't want it for anybody. Okay, now R stands for regret. We talked about it a little bit. Ask yourself if you would regret not doing what you have the opportunity to do. Understand your feelings, look for this fear of regret, and decide if you want to live with that specific regret because you have the ability to take action. You do. You have the ability to notice thoughts, to tweak your thoughts to help you more, and to try stuff because you're alive. So, do you want to waste more time? Do you want to live with regret? I have a feeling you don't. So that's flower power in the nutshell, that with a couple of the other tips that we talked about. And I forgot one thing that's a really good one.
Mhm.
If you really don't know what you want and you feel so deep and stuck and sorry for yourself, think about envy. Envy is a hard emotion. I know you might be thinking, ugh, I'm not even comfortable when I'm a little bit envious. I'm saying embrace envy. You don't have to tell anybody. But when you notice you feel envious because of something somebody else has or what they experienced, be curious. Why do I want that thing?
Oh, that's so good, Susie.
It's
I
a
love it.
hack.
Yes.
I
Yes.
remember one client said, this was years ago, it was such a good one, though I'll never forget it. She envied a friend of hers because her friend always had time to visit people in the hospital.
Hmm.
So, what does that mean? Does that mean she wants to be a permanent person in the hospital who visits people? No. It meant something about her lifestyle that wasn't giving her the flexibility that she needed. I've had people get insights about envy, about complete career changes. I had one client who saw a yoga studio in a beautiful environment on some cliff with the ocean behind. And she started thinking, how's this person doing this? How did they get that idea to have a business in this kind of beauty? And what do you know? That inspired her. And now she changed her business and she created a business that was more in nature.
Oh, okay. This is the most exciting tip for me right now is because
Yeah,
I can just look then. It's just information and it's not something I have to figure out. I just notice, I'm kind of envious of that. Why? Or, I know I'm
exactly.
noticing that I like that about that person. Why? What is it? What would that look like for me? So fun.
And it's you don't need to blab that you're feeling envy. You don't need to do that, and even this is what happened to me. It was very helpful, and mine was needlepoint related. So I found myself in a needlepoint store, which I was new to. So I was doing some projects for my kids, and I had to go to the store because I didn't know what I was doing. So I go into the store, and the owner was at the back of the store with one of those high tables, like a bar height table, with like these 6 or 7 ladies around the table, all leaning over, like so focused on what they were doing. And she's teaching away. And I think she was teaching how to bead on the needlepoint, something like that. I was so taken aback by how excited these ladies were that there was a store for needlepoint. Who knew that the walls were covered with canvases and the threads were so colorful. And I just went back to my office that day. I thought, what am I doing? How did that needlepoint lady figure out that this was a worthwhile business? She clearly loves needlepoint. She probably loved it her whole life. And she had the guts to develop a needlepoint business. And now she's teaching and she's got a retail store. And she was the one that told me I had a reading problem. I needed eyeglasses because of the needlepoint, too much dark blue or black. I couldn't see. And I was just like, wow, how did that happen? And I was so envious of her.
Oh,
I don't even know her name, and I was like, wow,
yeah.
that really stuck with me.
Well, that would be a great action then. You're noticing that, but then the action could be just taking her out to coffee or like emailing her some questions or something too to figure that out. Okay.
I did have one client who did that with was she I think she was curious about organizing actually. So she looked up the certification possibilities and then she also made an appointment to volunteer with somebody local in her
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
And then she did that for a couple of days and it was really good feedback for her. It was good data.
Oh, so interesting. Okay, Suzy, we got to wrap up, but tell us where people can find you.
Okay, great. Well, I have a podcast called Women in the Middle, Loving Life After 50, and another podcast called Women in the Middle, The Reality of Running a Business After 50. And you can find these podcasts in all the podcast places. Also, you can head over to my website at suzyrosenstein.com. And if you go to www.midlifequiz.com, you're going to find a free quiz that's all about helping you find out what's keeping you stuck and move toward the life you've been putting off, what your future self is craving, that kind of stuff. It'll give you that insight. So it's free, it's fun, and it's fast. So you can start there at midlifequiz.com.
Ooh, such good resources. How exciting. Okay, thanks, Suzy, for being here. I really appreciate this. I think it's inspiring to hear these little tips, and I'm taking a lot from it as well. So thank you.
Tracy, it was a delight. You're a delight. Thank you so much.
Wait, if you're finding this podcast useful, you must check out the Organized Coach Academy. It's my course where I walk you through every step to get your business organized, to get yourself organized, to save money and time, to prepare to hire someone, to do all the things that you want to do in your business with ease. Check that out at simplysquaredaway.com/OCA. Also, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but I would love it. It's my way of knowing that you're enjoying the podcast if you leave a written review. I have lots of freebies for you. They're linked in the show notes. You can find them in my bio on Instagram at Tracy Hoth. And until next week, have a beautiful day.